The film opens with two siblings, Trish and Derry, driving home for spring break on a long, empty stretch of Florida backroad, the kind of two-lane highway where you can go 50 miles without passing another car. Trish is a college student, a few years older, driving her own car with Derry riding shotgun, and the two of them fall into the easy, bickering rhythm of siblings who genuinely like each other but would never admit it directly. Derry teases Trish about taking the scenic route home instead of the highway, needling her that there's usually a reason someone chooses 10 hours of country radio and farm reports over the fast way. And Trish deflects without really answering, telling him to just drive. Derry doesn't let it go easily. He's the kind of little brother who treats every deflection as an invitation to dig further. They pass the drive playing a road trip license plate game, spotting vanity plates on passing cars and cracking jokes about what the letters might stand for, keeping a running score between them the entire way. 3-2, then 5-2, bickering over whether a call counts if you say it a beat too late or under your breath in shock. Derry needles Trish about her boyfriend back at school, a political science major and track athlete their parents adore, a golden boy type Trish has apparently just broken up with and isn't remotely ready to explain to anyone, least of all her nosy little brother, who keeps circling back to it with exactly the smug persistence of someone who knows he's getting under her skin. Trish shuts him down flatly every time, telling him it's none of his business and that she'll figure out what to tell their parents on her own schedule. It's exactly the kind of scene that establishes two ordinary, funny, likable people worth caring about before anything goes wrong, which is precisely the job it's doing. Nothing about the first 10 minutes of this film reads as horror setup, which is what makes the turn so effective when it comes. They also spend a few minutes bringing up an old local legend, a couple named Darla and Kenny who died on this same highway roughly 20 years earlier after a prom night gone wrong. Their car found wrecked with no bodies inside. Darla's severed head never recovered despite an extensive search. It's presented as exactly the kind of urban legend every town has about its own stretch of road, the story parents use to scare teenagers away from drinking and driving on prom night. And Trish and Derry trade it back and forth as casual scary story material. Trish admitting that when she first heard the story as a kid, she used to think this specific highway was the one she'd eventually die on. A joke dark enough that Derry calls her out for being unusually morbid today. Neither of them has a hint that any of it might be relevant to their own night, or that the legend they're treating as campfire trivia is about to become a lot less abstract. That's when the truck first appears behind them, an old, rusted, oversized vehicle that rides up on their bumper and stays there just a beat too long before finally roaring past them and disappearing ahead down the road. It has a strange horn blast and a chrome grille that looks like it's smiling. The siblings clock its unusual license plate for their game, BEATNGU, and spend a minute arguing over what it's supposed to spell before deciding it must read beating you, a detail Derry calls before Trish does and gets to count toward his score. They're relieved once it's gone, chalking the whole aggressive tailgating up to some redneck lunatic in a hurry. The relief doesn't last. A few minutes later, they come across the same truck again, this time parked beside an old, abandoned church set back from the road, its driver in the middle of dumping a large, blood-stained, wrapped bundle down into a rusted pipe that runs into the ground beside the building. It's clearly a body. The driver notices Trish and Derry's car passing at exactly the wrong moment, and the instant he realizes he's been seen, he abandons what he's doing and gets back in the truck to chase them down. What follows is a genuinely vicious pursuit, the truck ramming and sideswiping their car along the empty road, trying to force them off it entirely, the driver clearly willing to kill two witnesses rather than risk being reported. Trish and Derry survive it, their car banged up but still drivable, and the truck eventually peels off, leaving them shaken and alone on the road again. Instead of driving straight to the nearest town, which is the sane option, curiosity wins out. They decide to go back to the church and see for themselves what was thrown down that pipe. It's the classic horror movie decision that always looks foolish in hindsight, and always makes a certain kind of sense in the moment. They've just watched a man dump a body and try to kill them for witnessing it, and neither of them can simply drive away without knowing more. At the church, they find the pipe, an old rusted tunnel disappearing down into darkness, clearly some kind of drainage or utility line running beneath the building into a cellar space below. It's too dark to see anything from the opening, so they grab a flashlight from the car. Derry, against every instinct anyone watching the film has at this point, decides to climb down into the pipe for a closer look, with Trish holding on to his legs from above to keep him steady and stop him from falling too far in. A rat scurries past in the dark, startling Derry badly enough that he loses his grip entirely and falls the rest of the way down into the hole. What he finds below is the nightmare the film has been building toward. One of the bodies dumped by the driver is lying nearby, and as Derry gets closer, he realizes with horror that the man is still alive. His body has been crudely but carefully sewn shut, as though whoever did this removed something from inside him and then stitched the wound closed afterward like a piece of tailoring, rather than an act of violence. The man tries to speak, manages nothing coherent, and dies before Derry can make sense of anything he's trying to say. Shaken to his core, Derry yells up to Trish to go find help while he pushes further into the underground space alone. And what he finds there is the film's signature image, the one that stayed with audiences for 2 decades. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of preserved human bodies fixed to the walls and ceiling of the cellar, arranged with a kind of deliberate, horrifying artistry, stitched and mounted like specimens in some vast private collection. Derry stands frozen in the middle of it, completely unable to process the scale of what he's looking at. Above ground, Trish waits near the road, trying to flag down any passing vehicle for help. She spots a car approaching in the distance and, fearing it might be the driver of the truck returning, scrambles back into their car and locks the doors, but it turns out to be someone else entirely, unconnected to any of this. Moments later, Derry reappears, having climbed his way back out, and the sudden sight of him startles Trish badly. She immediately asks what he saw down there, but Derry is too shaken to get any words out. Instead, they agree to drive to the nearest diner, both to put some distance between themselves and the church and to report what's happened to actual authorities. At the diner, Derry finally manages to describe what he saw. Hundreds of bodies preserved and arranged beneath the church in horrifying, deliberate detail. He's shaking as he says it, needing Trish to look him in the eye and confirm she actually believes every word, not just the parts that are easy to accept, and Trish, even rattled herself, holds his gaze and gives him that. While they're processing all of this and trying to figure out what to do next, they get a phone call at the diner from a woman they've never met. She knows both their full names. She knows Derry went down into the pipe and found the bodies. She knows details about Derry's appearance. A torn shirt, a small rose tattoo on his stomach, exactly where the fabric is ripped. That there's no ordinary way for a stranger to know unless she's somehow watching or dreaming exactly what's happening to them in real time. When Derry asks who she is, she doesn't answer directly. Instead, she gives them a warning. They need to be careful of a demon that hunts along this road, something she doesn't know how to categorize exactly. Not sure if it's a devil or a demon or just some ancient hungry thing from somewhere outside ordinary time, but she's certain of one specific detail. It has a habit of playing an old song right before it comes for whoever it's decided to take, and if they ever hear that tune, she tells them, they need to run, and she means actually run, because what follows is worse than anything either of them could imagine in their worst nightmare. Derry, overwhelmed and half convinced this is some kind of cruel prank call landing at the worst possible moment, curses at her and hangs up. Not wanting to waste any more time processing an unexplained phone call, they get diner staff to call the police immediately. Officers arrive, and Trish and Derry lay out everything. The bodies, the truck, the driver, all of it, running through the same story again and again as the officers press for details. The police are openly skeptical at first, understandably treating the story as too outlandish to take at face value. The bodies Derry describes as still having skin and rings on their fingers can't possibly be the same missing teenagers from 20 years earlier. One officer points out, since bones don't stay preserved like that, Derry insists on every detail. The bodies were hard, petrified almost, like something had deliberately treated them to keep from decaying, stitched together into something resembling a horrific quilt covering the walls. He gets increasingly frustrated at being doubted, at one point snapping that they should just drive out to the church themselves if they think he's lying. Then one of the diner staff interrupts to mention something that changes the tone of the room entirely. Someone was seen at Trish and Derry's car in the parking lot, going through their laundry and clothes, holding handfuls of it up to his face and sniffing it with what looked like genuine pleasure. It's a small, deeply unsettling detail that does more to convince the police something real is happening here than anything in the siblings' account of the cellar. The police agree to investigate and head out toward the old church with Derry in the car. On the way, a radio call comes through. The church is on fire, and by the time they arrive, the blaze has consumed the building entirely. Every piece of evidence, every preserved body is destroyed. Nobody has a clear account of who started the fire or how. Before the group can regroup and figure out their next move, they're ambushed. The mysterious figure from the truck appears and kills the officers on scene with brutal efficiency, loading their bodies into the back of the same rusted truck as casually as if he were loading feed sacks. Moments later, Trish and Derry hear it, the same haunting song the phone caller warned them about, drifting through the air from somewhere nearby. Terrified now in a way that goes beyond ordinary fear, they get in the car and drive as far and as fast as they can. Along the way, they spot a house, and desperate for any kind of help or working phone, they stop and knock. An elderly woman answers, living alone with dozens of cats crowded through her home. A woman who turns out to have her own strange, intuitive relationship with whatever is hunting them. As Trish and Derry try to explain their situation, the old woman suddenly tenses, sensing that something else has arrived outside in her yard. Not just the two frightened kids on her porch, but something waiting in the dark beyond them. She grabs a shotgun and fires at the shape she senses out there. But whatever it is moves with inhuman speed, dodging her shot easily. She tries to keep fighting, but she's killed before she has any real chance to defend herself or escape. It's only in this moment, as the creature finally steps fully into view, that Trish and Derry understand they aren't dealing with a serial killer in a truck at all. They're looking at something that was never human to begin with, something built entirely around the act of killing. Realizing the area is no longer remotely safe, they try to flee, and the creature blocks the road ahead of them before they can get away. Without any other option, they slam the car directly into it, hitting it hard, more than once, in a desperate bid to stop it in its tracks. The impact is severe enough to sever one of its legs completely, leaving it seriously wounded on the roadside. Even with the creature down and vulnerable, neither Trish nor Derry can bring themselves to finish the job. Whatever instinct stops them, compassion, shock, simple human decency toward something still shaped roughly like a person, they leave it behind, wounded, and drive straight for the nearest police station instead of risking a killing blow. At the station, they're approached by a woman named Giselle, who introduces herself as a psychic, someone who experiences vivid, often accurate dreams about terrible events before they happen. She reveals that she was the one who called them at the diner earlier, the mystery caller with the warning about the song. Now, face to face, she lays out everything she knows about what's actually been hunting them. It's not a man, it's an ancient being the locals have come to call the Creeper. A creature that wakes roughly every 23 years for a stretch of 23 days, hunting and feeding on humans across whatever territory it's chosen for that cycle before returning to dormancy. What makes it uniquely horrifying isn't just the killing, but the method behind it. Whatever body part it consumes from a victim, it uses to regenerate the corresponding part of its own body. Eat a leg, and its own severed leg grows back almost instantly. Eat a heart, and its lifespan extends by roughly double. This applies, according to Giselle, to essentially any organ or body part a human has to offer, which explains both the sewn-shut corpse Derry found in the cellar and why the creature was so casually able to keep functioning after having a leg torn off in the car collision. It doesn't hunt indiscriminately either. It can smell fear specifically and uses that scent to home in on whichever body part it wants most from a given victim, which is why it examined both Trish and Derry so carefully before finally settling on one of them. Right now, she tells them, it has caught the scent of something it wants badly, in either Trish or Derry. Neither of them or Giselle herself knows yet which one it's actually after. Only that the choice is coming, and coming soon. What makes the film work, beyond the creature design and the body horror set pieces, is how much time it spends making you like Trish and Derry before anything goes wrong. The license plate game, the sibling ribbing about the boyfriend, the shared morbid joke about dying on this exact highway, the easy lived-in rhythm of two people who've clearly spent 100 road trips exactly like this one, bickering over nothing that matters. That's what makes the ending land as hard as it does. It isn't just a monster movie kill dressed up with practical effects. It's a specific brother, sewn into the mythology of a specific stretch of road within one long night, taken from a specific sister who spent the entire film trying to protect him, offering herself in trade at the very end and being refused. The highway already had one urban legend attached to it before any of this happened. Now it has another, and this time, unlike Darla and Kenny, there will be no mystery about who's responsible. Only a truck disappearing down the road toward its next 23-year sleep, and a sister left standing in the dark with nothing to do but scream. While all of this is being explained, the wounded creature, already healing, already tracking their scent with terrifying persistence despite its injury, arrives at the police station itself. It cuts the power, slips inside in the dark, and breaks into the holding cells, feeding on the prisoners there to speed its own regeneration. The officers try to fight back, opening fire on it, but their weapons do nothing meaningful against it. Several are killed in the chaos that follows, and the station rapidly stops being the safe haven it was supposed to be. Trapped inside with the power out and the building compromised, Giselle delivers the last, worst piece of her warning. One of them is going to die tonight, horribly, and someone is going to be left screaming into the dark afterward. She looks at Trish when she says it, and the implication is unmistakable, though she doesn't say the name outright. The creature finds all three of them shortly after, Trish, Derry, and Giselle together, but it shows no interest whatsoever in Giselle, passing over her without so much as a glance, and corners Trish and Derry instead in an upstairs interrogation room. It sniffs and tastes both of them carefully, weighing its options the way it apparently always does before committing to a target, and ultimately tosses Trish aside entirely. It chooses Derry. Trish, desperate, throws herself at the creature and begs it to take her instead, offering herself in her brother's place with everything she has left. It ignores her completely. It smashes straight through the window and takes off into the night sky with Derry held in its grip, leaving Trish alone in the wrecked room, screaming into the darkness exactly the way Giselle predicted she would. Trish is the one who survives. The next morning, her parents arrive at the station to take her home, and there's no version of that reunion that isn't defined entirely by the fact that her brother isn't in the car with them. In the film's final scene, the camera takes us to the creature's new hideout, showing what's become of Derry, his body brutally torn apart, the same fate that's clearly befallen everyone else who's ever ended up wherever this thing takes what it collects. As the camera pulls back, the creature climbs into its rusted brown truck one last time and drives off toward the setting sun, already looking for whatever comes next. Already 23 days into a cycle that has no reason to stop just because this particular hunt is finished.